week. When you think about the cash balances that Uber has, to the extent, and hopefully there'll be a day where those cash balances get even bigger. We saw what happened with Tesla this past week, buying a little bit of Bitcoin, or I should say a lot of bit of Bitcoin. And now you have CFOs thinking about this in a more meaningful way. Is that a conversation that's happened inside Uber yet?
It's a conversation that's happened that has been quickly dismissed. We're going to keep our cash safe. We're not in the speculation business. The upside in our company is in the business that we build, not the investments that we invest in.
Any thought about accepting Bitcoin as a mode of currency for your passengers?
Yeah, listen, just like we accept all kinds of local currency, we are going to look at cryptocurrency and or Bitcoin in terms of currency to transact. That's good for business. That's good for our riders and our eaters. So that we'll certainly look at. And if there's a benefit there, if there's a need there, we'll do it. We're just not going to do it as part of a promotion.
Today you were talking so much about Bitcoin, and look where we are today. But first, let's talk about stocks, Mark. How are you feeling about this market, given this big run-up, record after record, and a pretty good economic backdrop to speak of as we recover here?
Yeah, great to see you again, Maria. It's been too long, and I appreciate you having me on this morning. Yeah. You know, I still am a little cautious about the outlook. I think the economic outlook, as you just talked about in Europe, is going to disappoint. I think, unfortunately, we'll probably disappoint in the U.S. as well. It's going to take a long time to recover from the lockdowns. And on valuations in the traditional equity markets, you know, we think they are very stretched. You know, we're now setting all-time records, not just in prices, but in valuation levels, everything from PEs to price to sales, EV to EBITDA, all off the charts, actually. So one of the things that we really focus on, you mentioned, you know, since we talked last time, Bitcoin's up a lot, gold's actually up a lot. Stocks appear to be up, but when you denominate them in a depreciating asset, the dollar, that's why the nominal price looks like it's up. If you denominate stocks in gold over the last 3 years, they're actually down. You denominate them in Bitcoin, they're down a lot. So what's happening is we're seeing our currency devalued before our eyes. You also mentioned earlier about Jay Powell saying we're going to have lower for longer. If things were great, why do we need emergency stimulus measures and the lowest levels of interest rates really in history?
Jim, I don't know if you want to start with cannabis. I see Bitcoin now all-time high this morning. You couple that with Bank of New York Mellon, what Dara just said about it a moment ago. Interesting day for the cryptocurrency.
I have to tell you, Carl, when you see MasterCard feeling that they have to put out a press release about what they're doing and can't really tell exactly where it starts or stops. I'll take Bitcoin, I'll send it to Bitcoin, you get Bitcoin, you don't get Bitcoin. But Visa's got the Bank of New York. What is really interesting, Carl, is I think this is really driven by Elon Musk saying, you know what? Regular currency is no good anymore because everybody's printing it, and this is the more valid storehold. Musk is driving so much of this market. It's fascinating. David, I'm not the Doge. You know, you got the
Dogecoin, yeah.
Yeah, that's not necessarily what I expect that PepsiCo will take in return for Fritos.
Right.
Fritos. But there is a sense that if you don't put out a release, PayPal has a meeting today about this, you're being left in the dust. Do you find that quizzical that these companies are playing such a, let's say, a laggard game?
I guess, but I'm trying to understand whether this is a seminal moment in the history of this currency and or cryptos in general.
I am too.
And I'll say anecdotally, I'm getting questions from areas that I would not have anticipated in terms of, well, should I own Bitcoin? And not from people who are speculators, but sort of as a hedge, or is it simply something that should become a part of my portfolio in some way? You know, I'm sure you're hearing plenty of it.
Oh, my, well, how do you integrate it? That's what people are talking about. I mean, the MasterCard, Lisa Ellis, I think, is really unbelievable. Ed Moffett-Nathanson, partner of Moffett-Nathanson, she's just an incredible work trying to differentiate what Visa's saying from PayPal, from MasterCard. But you don't really understand, or that when they say they'll accept Bitcoin, David, does that mean that you get it transferred into dollars immediately, a Visa strategy? Or is it a MasterCard strategy? I give you Bitcoin and they send you Bitcoin?
Right.
No one's really clear. And I think no one's really clear because it's happening too quickly.
So where's the clarity going to come from?
I think we're going to get we'll get the clarity tonight from Dan Schulman, PayPal, because he was the first guy to say, you know what, this is a legitimate deal of the major companies. And you know, the market cap of PayPal is extraordinary.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We know that one, Carl, right? I check it, but it's right around 300 bill is usually where PayPal is. So not an insane. 331 billion. Sorry. Yeah, 331 billion.
It's definitely a different environment, Jim. I mean, it's one thing to have PayPal and Jack Dorsey talk about it, but I mean, Bank of New York Mellon is the largest custodial bank in the world. It's our oldest bank. And to hear them say that eventually they're going to treat it like any other asset sounds different.
It sure does. There's a couple of streams of thought that are going on about assets that are going to be treated differently. We're going to be talking about the pot stocks. What's the big differentiator in pot? It's only a cash business. It needs to be in credit. You can't buy on credit. They can't. They bring these big Brinkstocks to all the different repositories. That's going to change. That's going to go into credit. We're suddenly seeing this as a form of credit, David. That's what it is. People want to use Bitcoin as a form of credit. But you know, how do you buy a Lamborghini with Bitcoin, and then how do you buy a bag of Doritos with Bitcoin?
Right. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's got to be immediately translated, or does it just, or is it its own thing?
Well, who wants that level of risk?
I mean, is Musk going to price Teslas in actual Bitcoin? This is, you know,
Musk?
I'm selling this for 1 Bitcoin. All right, 47 grand. Yeah, there you go. Right, he can sell the model. He's right around there in some of his models.
But we were on our set, Carl, yesterday for Mad Money, and I was asking Regina Gilgan, my amazing executive producer. I said, "Is it really a revolution that we're seeing? Are these just all revolutions, and we have to recognize the revolutions, or they are just kind of very exciting things that have interrupted the boring world of the PepsiCos? I don't know." I find so much. I find myself playing. There's a piece today in the Wall Street Journal about GameStop versus. It's an easy piece to read. GameStop versus Bitcoin, and they do have these characteristics, Carl, that make it so that they're just prurient. They're prurient, and I think a lot of people want to have car crashes, and I'm not seeing any, but I do see spikes in stocks, Carl, that are going to lose people so much money that it's just they're going to say, "Why did I ever buy a stock?"
Tremendous response from our customers in the U.S. Can you share a little bit more about this initial experience and how it's performing, and then what the longer-term vision is around digital currencies more broadly?
We're really excited about enabling PayPal customers to buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrencies in their digital wallets. This, as you mentioned, is only the first use case for crypto and digital currencies for PayPal. That said, even as a first use case, our early results are incredibly strong and frankly have exceeded all of the expectations that we had for this use case. The number of daily users of crypto services continues to grow rapidly. Every day we're seeing an incredibly healthy influx of first-time users and increased engagement once they've made their first crypto purchases. Customers who have purchased crypto have been logging into PayPal at roughly twice their login frequency prior to actually having purchased crypto, which is amazing. This year, though, we're going to be, as you mentioned, increasing access to crypto and digital currencies to more customers around the world, and we will be enabling crypto as a funding instrument for transactions at millions of businesses around the world. So if you even just think about the roadmap for the first half of 2020, building on what Darryl was talking about, we're going to see crypto and Venmo on track to go live in the first half of the year. We've got crypto as a funding instrument for commerce going live in several months, and we plan to expand our crypto offering geographically to the UK in a number of months as well. So, look, we're still at the early days of our development of our crypto aspirations, but we really do believe that digital currencies, CBDCs, and the collaboration with central banks and regulators will open new ways to exchange value and power global commerce and financial services for entirely new segments of the population. And as I talked about before, crypto services will broaden the range of financial services offered through the PayPal and Venmo apps, and that's going to support the transformation of those apps into being destination apps, not only for financial services, but for commerce. In addition, we're actually looking at our crypto services to help position PayPal to help shape the role of cryptocurrencies and CBDCs in consumer payments, commerce, and financial services safely and securely. So, look, early days for us here, but we're moving rapidly. We're moving with discipline, and we continue to build on our crypto capabilities. And this is going to be an area of growing focus for us going forward.
Event together, like the $50 billion. Good stuff. Of course, I can't resist a question on crypto. So would it be possible, I guess, first to provide any additional metrics on some of the success you're seeing with the initial crypto buy, sell, hold launch in the U.S.? And then second, articulate a little more specifics on your longer-term aspirations for digital currencies and broader investment services. Like, so are you expanding buy, sell, hold offerings into other asset classes? You know, how are you tracking on launching the commerce offering? And then I know you're pretty heavily involved also with government-backed digital currencies. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I think I'll try to answer some of those questions, Lisa. That was a multi-part question, but all of them really, really good. I think, and I tried to say this in my remarks, that buy, sell, hold is like step number one moving into sort of this whole digital currencies arena. Obviously, we're tapping into a tremendous market that in which we're seeing demand and growing demand from our customers to have the ability to simply and easily buy cryptocurrencies, hold it, or sell it. And you know, as I think Jonathan mentioned, you know, we are seeing just first-time users flock every single day to that. So the results that we saw that kind of surprised us to the upside continue to do the same thing to this day. But that's just the beginning of what we're really thinking about. If I take a step back, I really do think that over the next 5 to 10 years, that the architecture of the financial system is going to have to change. First of all, it's pretty antiquated. It can take days to complete a transaction, to have your money actually get to you. It's very expensive. And by the way, it's very expensive from a take rate overall. But if you have lower income levels, that take rate can be 6, 8, 10% versus the most affluent who can have take rates of like 0.5% to 1%. So it's skewed in terms, and it basically is very exclusionary. It's not inclusive. It doesn't bring in all of the world's population. You still have 2 billion people outside the financial system. And so I think as we move to a much more modern infrastructure, modern technology, it could be distributed ledgers, it could be other technologies, that you're going to see a shift in the way that digital forms of value are moved throughout the world. And we think as central banks start to seriously consider the direct issuance of digital currencies, and most of them are thinking about it right now, and many of them are moving forward and are talking about launching that over the next several years, that is a natural complement to digital wallets. And if you think about, you know, how many digital wallets we're going to have over the next 2, 3, 5 years, going up to 750 million, we're a perfect complement to central banks, to governments, to distribute those digitized fiat forms of currency in a very modern way so that transactions can be instantaneous, so that more and more of the population can access the digital economy. And we think that really is kind of the focus area of this new business unit that we've put into. What's that architecture going to look like? How can we shape it? But in the interim, you've got all the things that are happening with digital forms of currency right now, which are called crypto. And they run on distributed ledger technology. And we think we can add more and more utility to those cryptocurrencies. Step number one is allowing cryptocurrencies to be used as a funding instrument so that somebody can invest in crypto, if that runs up or runs down, whichever way it goes, but they can instantaneously access that amount of money they've invested and use it to make a purchase at any of our merchants. So that's step one, and that's going to happen in the next couple of months. After that, if you think about some of the utility inherent within blockchain, things like smart contracts, you talked about digitizing other assets and maybe having people be able to invest in those digitized assets that can be broken down into smaller piece parts. That's clearly things that we are looking at and have on our roadmap. We'll expand internationally as well, as Jonathan mentioned in his presentation. And so our roadmap around cryptocurrency, enhancing the utility of that, not just the buy, sell, hold, but the fundamental utility of cryptocurrencies, and then really thinking about the long term, like what does the new financial system look like and what's our role in helping to shape that, and how do we work hand in hand with central banks, with governments, and with regulators to go and do that. So it's quite expansive. We're investing heavily here. But this is a once in a multi-decade opportunity where the fundamental rails of the system are going to be redefined, and we have a chance to help shape that.
There's a certain strain of bacteria called Lactobacillus reuteri that will help you grow bigger balls. There was a study published in 2014 that used male Wistar rats. These rats have...
From your perspective, you're right in the middle of it. You're right in the middle of it. You look at 48,000 and you say to yourself, fair value, this makes sense to me, this doesn't make sense to me. What?
The most important thing is not if the prices are going up or if they're going down. The most important thing is for the prices to be down. 3 years ago, people were saying they could not get into crypto because it was too volatile and there was not enough liquidity. There were no qualified custodians. And now what we're seeing is, as you mentioned, BNY Mellon announcing they're coming into the space in a meaningful manner. And it is digital asset platforms like Anchorage that are allowing these institutions to come and enter crypto.
So Diego, give me the upside and downside valuation in your mind right now.
Over the long run, there's no doubt that the crypto assets will be more valuable than they are today. And we know the volatility, and we know this will change pretty dramatically. But the company is a digital asset company and the first federally digital asset bank. We are solely focused on this market because we believe in the long-term potential.
I appreciate that. What I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of viewers out there right now thinking either own Bitcoin, that are either thinking I need to buy more or I need to get out of this at this price because it doesn't make sense. And I think we're all trying to understand, quote unquote, what fair value is. I won't even push you on that particular point. When you look at the trend line right now, but also recognizing the kind of pullbacks we've seen before, where do you think is the lower end of support right now? And where, let's say, within the next 6 months, do you think the higher end of support might be?
I think people should take a look at their portfolio and include crypto on their portfolio, regardless of the current price. We just talked about how the stock market is also at all-time highs. So the same logic applies here. It is part, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are part of a modern portfolio. People should be diversifying
I understand that,
their
but
bets.
Look, I don't mean to be difficult about it, but at some point there has to be some kind of analysis beyond everybody's going to be using crypto, therefore it's worth more, right? I mean, there has to be an upper limit on what you look. We could start taking percentages of the gold market, and I could work with you to get it to 100,000. I could go up to get you to 200,000. Maybe I could get you to $500,000. I could also get you down to 30,000. I might even be able to push you all the way down to 10,000. And what I'm trying to understand is how you actually think about it, not whether it's a good business or not. I know you're in the business and you're doing great. And by the way, we're rooting for you. We want it to work. I think there's probably some people who don't want it to work, but I think we also want to understand your analysis of it.
Yeah, I think the same question can be asked of gold. What is the upper limit of the price of gold? What is the fundamental value of gold? Is it all of it because it has an institutional demand and institutional use, or is a lot of it speculative too in nature? And what is that upper bound? So the answer is no one knows. We know that the market goes up because there's more buyers than sellers. And we know that one of the advantages of Bitcoin is its deflationary nature. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. And so the more Bitcoin are currently being held by people that do not intend to sell, the higher the price goes. And that is the only metric that we can follow. There is no fundamental analysis
but
that
Diego,
we can follow here.
Let's talk about that, though, because it's an interesting fact. The people who are buying it think it's going to go up, therefore they're holding it. So when you hear an announcement that MasterCard says you're going to be able to transact in it, or you hear that Elon Musk is going to allow people to buy cars with it, should that be a great sign? Or should I mean, look, to me it's fascinating that Tesla is actually buying this and planning to hold it themselves. That's one thing. But if you have an option to either use the money to buy a car or keep it because you think it's going up, why would you ever use it as a currency?
So I think people are using Bitcoin for the explicit purpose of capital preservation. You mentioned Tesla. Tesla is not going to be the last public traded company to take some portion of their treasury and put it in Bitcoin. We know that MicroStrategy has done it. We know that Square is doing it. And we are getting so many corporate treasuries reaching out to Anchorage because we can provide them the brokerage, the buy and sell, the ability to enter, and safe custody regulated as a bank. So we're seeing this. They're not the first ones. So if anything, I would say to the viewers that you have only seen the beginning of it. You have only seen 3 companies or a couple of companies, dozens of companies that are public traded companies.